You know, when you think of slavery, you probably picture something from a history book, right? Something ancient. But what if I told you it never actually went away? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this hidden reality, from the chains of the past to the invisible bonds that are all around us, right now. All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll nail down what slavery actually is. Then, we'll take a trip back in time to see where it all started and look at the long, hard fight to get rid of it. And then, we're going to get into the really shocking part, how it's still thriving right under our noses in the modern world.
Okay, first things first. What do we even mean when we use the word slavery? Let's get to the heart of the concept. So, this is the absolute key. Slavery is way more than just being forced to work. It's the total erasure of someone's humanity. It's a system where a person is legally turned into chattel. And that word is so important. It means they're seen as property, an object, like a tool or an animal, something you can just buy and sell.
And here's the thing. This brutal idea wasn't some weird fringe concept. For most of human history, it was basically the foundation of society. So the question is, where did a system like this even come from?
It turns out there were a whole bunch of ways you could fall into slavery. I mean, in the ancient world, your freedom could just vanish. One minute you're free, the next you're captured in a war, or you fall into debt you can't pay, or you're punished for a crime. Heck, you could just be born into it. It was this constant, terrifying possibility hanging over people's heads.
And when you look at the timeline, you can see how this just became a massive global economic engine. For literally thousands of years, the greatest empires we read about, Egypt, Mesopotamia, Rome, you name it, they were built on the backs of enslaved people. It wasn't some kind of flaw in their system. It was their system.
But it's important to know that slavery wasn't just one thing. It looked different in different places and at different times. And yeah, some forms were even more horrifying than others.
Just look at the difference here. You have chattel slavery, that was the engine of the transatlantic trade, and that was the most extreme version. You were property. End of story. But then you have something like debt bondage, which was a different kind of trap. It was like financial quicksand. A family could get stuck for generations, all because of one single loan that was impossible to ever pay back.
Okay, so after thousands of years of this being just the way things were, something started to shift. The world started to grow a conscience, you could say. And this is a huge turning point, the beginning of the end for legal slavery, the rise of abolition.
And you can almost see the dominoes falling here, right? It took a couple of centuries, and it was a long, brutal, often bloody fight. But you see the British Empire, then the United States, after a devastating civil war. The legal basis for slavery just starts to fall apart, piece by piece. Eventually, this all leads to a global declaration saying, nope, this is a fundamental violation of human rights.
And get this, 1981. That's within the lifetime of a lot of us. That was the year the last country on Earth officially got rid of slavery. You'd think that's where the story ends, right? A final victory for humanity? But it's not.
Because this is where the whole story takes a really sharp turn. Yeah, the laws changed, but what was actually happening to people on the ground? Well, that's a whole different story.
So, this is the big question we have to ask ourselves. Did making slavery illegal actually end it, or did it just push it underground into the shadows?
Okay, get ready for this number. 50 million. That's not from 100 years ago. That's the estimate from the International Labor Organization for how many people are living in modern slavery today, right now. Think about that. That's more people than at any other time in history. So the fight isn't just not over. In a lot of ways, it feels like it's just getting started.
So what does this even look like today? Well, it's hiding in plain sight. It's the human trafficking victim forced to work in another country. It's the migrant worker who gets their passport taken away by their boss so they can't leave. It's that same debt bondage we talked about, still the most common form today, where families are trapped paying off a debt from generations ago. It's kids forced to work in dangerous mines, or girls forced into marriages they don't want. It has many faces.
All right, so with a crisis this huge, this staggering, what's being done? How is the world trying to fight back against this modern version of an ancient evil?
It really all comes back to this promise the world made to itself, way back in 1948. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude in all their forms. And that's the key part. The mission today is to finally make those words a reality for every single person.
And the approach has to be pretty broad. You've got the UN setting these big, ambitious goals to just get rid of forced labor. But honestly, the real monster here is untangling these incredibly complex global supply chains. So a huge part of the fight today is just about awareness. It's about helping all of us see the invisible threads that might connect the stuff we buy every day to someone being exploited halfway across the world.
And you know, that really brings it all back home to us. Because slavery never really vanished. It just got better at hiding. It traded its iron chains for shady contracts and its auction blocks for global supply chains. The fight for abolition, well, it never really ended. And so the real question it leaves for all of us is a tough one. Now that we know this is happening, now that we can see it, what are we going to do about it?